Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Nathan Thompson with the Wellness Way Yorkville. Happy Monday, July 3rd. I decided to go a little bit live earlier, 9 a.m., only because our office is closed. And probably if I was going on later tonight, everybody would be watching fireworks and not watching this instead. So hopefully you guys will be able to catch this. We had to compromise a little bit. So guys, I'm going to talk today about the age-old question. I guess I wouldn't say age-old question because I've gotten this question a lot over the last month or so. It's the idea of berberine and weight loss. People ask me this question: is it nature's Ozempic? Doc, can you talk about this? And so finally, I relented and said, "Yep, all right, let's go ahead and let's talk about this." Guys, this is actually something that I have been recommending for people for the last 5 years. And it just so happens, that there's always a supplement that catches fire. And then everybody starts talking about it. And then within 2 to 3 years, we kind of forget about it, then go on to the next thing. And you don't have to, I've been in this long enough to see all of the diet fads, to see all of the different phases of supplements. And, if you go back, at some point it was, CBD, it was noni juice, it was goji berries. And it's like just people just move on to the next superfood or to the next miracle supplement. And the reason why is because they're always looking for the miracle. They're always looking for the quick fix. They're always looking for the next exercise program. It's this one's going to change my life. And guys, let me just tell you this. And when I go over berberine, I'm going to go over how they work. And yeah, it is pretty awesome. But I want to caution you to make sure that you aren't always moving on to the next strategy, right? Because I will actually talk about this in my book Transformation 28, which I give 3 stars out of 5, by the way, just because there's a lot of things that I would change in it. But I always talk about how everyone's looking for the strategies, that the strategy is going to change their life, when really what they should be working on is this up here. And a strategy that's not very good, that is consistently executed, will always outperform the best strategy that always sits on the shelf and is never executed. So let's talk about berberines. Let's talk about, is it in fact a weight loss miracle? And before we do that, as we see people jump on, make sure, guys, that you say hello. So wave to me, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from as well. I know that we have people from Iowa, Montana, things going on. Awesome. Awesome. And I always appreciate that. Make sure that you keep watching this, because I did a reel not that long ago and people said, yes, please give me this gift. And I am going to do it. I'm going to give it to you for free. And so make sure that you know how to download this free gift. So while we do that, guys, remember, if you're watching from the Chicagoland area, please get registered for the Inflammation Talk that's coming up. This is an in-person event, Thursday, July 20th. So it's going to be in almost 2 weeks, 6:00 p.m. When we talk about inflammation, it even has to do with weight loss, guys, as well. Weight loss, cancer, heart disease. When you talk about the immune system inflammatory response, how inflammation is good when it's acute, how inflammation is not good when it becomes chronic, and there's always immune system stimulants in there. And how it causes disease progression. We don't really call it disease, we call it adaptation. But that adaptation, which will help you in the short term, there's always going to be long-term consequences with it. So guys, all you have to do is just make sure you go to our Linktree page up at the top, or if you're watching from Facebook, you can go to the top of the page, get registered for that if you are in the Chicagoland area. And then as well, we also have live our inflammation webinar. And so you can watch this webinar actually on demand, but I believe it will be available this Tuesday and next Tuesday. Don't quote me on that. But if you have an hour to spend, you can go and you can register for that webinar and then watch it all the way through. So we have a lot of people who reach out and say, hey, do we work remotely? We have opened up a couple of spots for me to be able to work with them remotely, only for people within the continental United States for various different reasons. But you can get registered for that webinar and you can play it on demand. So you can watch it right there, but you'll have to watch it obviously all the way through. And guys, if you are a man, or women, if you want your man to do this, don't nag them though. It's got to be their idea. Coming up Saturday, July 22nd, right here. This is an in-person event here at the Wellness Way Yorkville. And it's called Man Up, how to increase your testosterone without all of the gimmicks. Okay. You see it out there. You see testosterone replacement clinics that are popping up. You see all of these testosterone boosting supplements. There will never be anything more powerful than your lifestyle. We're going to show men how to do this. We're even going to take them through 4 weeks of how to eat, how to fast, how they should be working out. And this is actually a 4-week transformational event that is done in person with me. So this is actually the thing that I love doing the most. And I only do it once a year because it takes so much energy to do it. But we are throwing around the idea of being able to do this, have you follow us virtually as well. And so if you guys are interested in, let us know. But if you are from the Chicagoland area, please get registered for that. You go to the Linktree for our Eventbrite upcoming events. Or you can get registered on the Facebook page. You'll see a link for that as well. This is really, really, really awesome. So men, when they come out of this, they are a brand new person. You guys ever wondered that when people say men's testosterone is in decline? And it is from a statistics standpoint. But guys, I just spent the weekend at Cedar Point in Ohio, walking around doing like amusement rides and things like that with my oldest son. And just when I looked at the males his age or a little bit older, I walked away saddened, because it really is saddened how men's testosterone have been manipulated chemically, how they've been manipulated mentally. And we just have a lot of males that are walking around with very low testosterone and very confused, if you know what I'm talking about. And if you understand hormones from a male perspective, from a female perspective, we are equal, but we are very different. And so that's why, the saying goes is, a fish will never know its worth if you convince it that it can ride a bicycle. So, and that's how when we are telling men and women that they can do certain things when hormonally they're not built that way, you will leave them very frustrated. So this is really an awesome event on how to reset yourselves and how to get the tenacity and the vigor back that our society was actually built on. And if you disagree with that, I don't care. So make sure, guys, if you are a man, and I know that we even have some women that try to register for it. We're like, this is not for women. All right. Now, guys, if you saw the post I did about you can exercise anywhere, you don't need a gym membership. Please make sure that I said, hey, do you guys want a free book? And it's just a PDF book, and there's like 75 workouts in it. And it's really just things you can do at home with minimal to no equipment. There's 75 workouts in there. Obviously, there could be more, but it's a good starting point. All you have to do is, if you go to my Linktree profile, you'll see it at the top, and you can download this as a PDF. So this is free. I'm not going to leave it up forever. So don't come back and ask me, hey, what is that? I want to get it. Because I will take this down probably within the next couple of days. So if you download it, great. And if you don't, you missed out. You're going to have to follow us and pay attention to obviously what we're doing. So you can go up to the top of the page, Linktree, and you can download this. There's 75 different workouts on there. And I even include the recommended equipment. Like, hey, you could literally do a lot of things that I wrote into the book with just this equipment. And hopefully it still works. There should be links on there that you can click through to be able to order some of this stuff on Amazon for at a pretty good cost. All right. So with that housekeeping out of the way, let's go over berberine, a question that people ask me all the time. And again, it's getting a lot of traction, guys, just like noni juice did, and just like, pomegranate juice did, and just like CBD oil did, and, just like the fish oils did a long time ago, and vitamin D did. And you see that people don't talk about that anymore. And it doesn't mean that there's no value that's in those things. It's just, again, people are looking for the next big thing. They're looking for the next, what's the thing that's going to take me over the top? And then we latch onto it. And then we realize, oh, I guess it didn't work as well as I thought it would. Maybe I'm going to look for the next thing. This is also true in fitness. This is coming from someone who owned CrossFit gyms for years and years. And I've seen these fitness. It was a fitness trend. And I actually, guys, I still do it, even though, a lot of people have moved on to the next thing. So, it used to be the aerobics movement. Then it was, this movement, and then it was CrossFit. Then it was Orange Theory. Then it was F45. And then you see that that's going away now too. And now you see almost everyone, you go to the gym and they're doing Romanian deadlifts and hip thrusts. And I'm like, you have no idea why you're doing that, do you? So all people are always looking for the strategy. So, guys, it's not the strategy, it's actually this up here. And I'll explain that in just a little bit. So, guys, you probably have seen this all over the news. And in fact, I just screen grabbed this from, I think, 4 days ago. And it was all over the place. And so this is from NBC News. What is berberine, the supplement dubbed nature's Ozempic, on social media? So if you are on Instagram, or if you are on TikTok, you see all these people that are touting it, as if to have some kind of insider knowledge. I look at this and I'm like, guys, we've been recommending things like Oregon grape and golden seal for the last 5 years, and I'll explain to you why. But they're saying that it works so well, it works so well. Well, in fact, it actually does work, but you're going to realize nothing will be as powerful as a medication, because constituents in herbs, they do not manipulate like drugs do. So, and that's why I tell people, the most powerful thing is always going to be a drug. A drug will manipulate 100%. And they'll take how a plant works, and they'll take the biochemistry from it, and then they'll synthesize it into some kind of artificial chemical, and then ramp up the intensity of doing it, and then sell it as a new drug for $3, $4, $5,000 a month. Isn't that interesting? And then after a certain number of years, it has to go generic, and then they're not going to make the money from it again. So then they try to look at or repurpose that drug into a different function, or they'll try to come up with some kind of new drug. That's why there's always a race to come up with all of these new drugs. So the reality is, and here's here's the short answer to this: does it work? Is it nature's Ozempic? And the answer is no. And the reason why is because it doesn't have the same mechanism of action as Ozempic. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, those things actually work by slowing down gastric emptying, which can give you all kinds of problems because it's inducing what's known as gastroparesis, which is why they say, hey, you got to watch some of the foods that you're eating that are a little bit slower to digest, like a high fatty meal can actually give you pancreatitis. I'm always like, if it's inducing a medical condition, then maybe you shouldn't do it at all. But it's not slowing down gastric emptying like Ozempic is. And the other thing too is it's not stimulating a mass amount of insulin secretion. Berberines don't stimulate insulin secretion. In fact, that's why I have so many problems with these medications, is while they may cause weight loss, guys, one of the things that's happening is if they're stimulating insulin secretion, the only thing that's happening is they're worsening insulin resistance, which means you're going to have to be at a very, very high level of insulin in order to maintain that weight loss, but you go off of it and pancreas won't be able to keep up, which is why they're saying rebound weight gain happens so much. And then I'm like, okay, well then you're going to have to manipulate for the rest of your life. And then number two, let's see if your pancreas can actually keep up. Show me the long-term studies over 10 or 15 years. And in fact, this used to be, Ozempic used to be it is a type 2 diabetic medication. But the next step with that is that people are going to have to be on insulin injections. That's why the proper medical management of diabetes always leads eventually to insulin. And so that's why doctors are just looking at blood sugar, but they're not measuring their insulin levels. And that's why every single person who I asked, hey, I'm on Ozempic and it worked wonders, I said, show me your insulin levels. And nobody even knew what I was talking about. Show me your insulin levels. And they're like, well, the doctor, they thought I was talking about their blood sugar levels. I'm like, no, show me your insulin levels. Show me where they're at. And yet not one person, not one doctor has actually shown me that person's insulin levels to see actually where they are at in order to induce some kind of weight loss to drive sugar into the cell. So in short, is berberine, is it nature's Ozempic? No, but I'm going to tell you what it is similar to instead, and it is metformin. So it is more similar to metformin than it is to Ozempic. Here's the reason why. Because metformin actually helps with insulin sensitivity. So it helps to with energy production, and Wegovy, Mounjaro, all these other ones as GLP-1 agonists, they don't. So they don't help with insulin sensitivity. They help drive up insulin. And in fact, if you guys have ever even been watching a lot of the things that have come about over the last year to 6 months, right around there, is that this guy right here is called David Sinclair. He's a anti-aging kind of guru, specialist, things like that. You may have seen a lot of his videos that are out there, but there's a lot of people that are talking about, he actually touts this. He actually says, I take not berberine, but I take different medications to help with anti-aging. Okay. So, um, and so he talks about like metformin, how it is an anti-aging and how it helps with energy production systems and mitochondria and fatty acid oxidation and increased glucose and protein metabolism. So he talks about all of that. And he actually is taking metformin, and he takes it as an anti-aging medication. But things like berberine do work more like metformin, but without all of the side effects. In fact, if you don't believe me, go on to WebMD and type in metformin and look at the reviews, and you will see some of the saddest and funniest at the same time reviews of what metformin does, especially for type 2 diabetes, on what it does to the gastrointestinal system. And so that's why berberine works more like metformin. So, how in fact does it work? There's a lot of heady, big words in here, but let me help you make sense of it. So, the main mechanism in which berberine exerts its effects appears to be in the stimulation of an enzyme known as AMPK, adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. Okay. Now, this might be similar to something you've heard of before because there's adenosine triphosphate, also known as ATP, in which you are getting, in which that is how energy is created within the mitochondria of your cells. So this is just at a pathway before that. So it's AMPK. This enzyme is a master regulator of cellular energy homeostasis involved in a wide range of biological processes, including the regulation of glucose, lipid, and protein metabolism. So where does this exert its effect? So basically what you're doing is how it actually stimulates this enzyme that's involved with energy metabolism. Is that a good thing? Yes, it's actually a good thing. So where does it exert its effect? Well, it exerts its effect on the brain. So it has to do with things like leptin and also fatty acid oxidation. And I actually have heard of leptin and things like that. So it's actually preventing fatty acid synthesis and promoting fatty acid oxidation, or the breakdown of fat to use it as an energy source. That's why if you look at a lot of people, they're like, hey, doc, I cannot lose weight. I mean, no matter what I do, I cannot lose weight. I go 4 to 5 pounds. It just stops. And there's nothing that I can do. And in fact, we even see people, we know that there is a problem with these pathways when they even go through a certain phase. We measure people and they're losing mostly muscle mass and very little fatty acid oxidation when we're measuring body fat. So it even can exert an effect as far as your hunger and your satiety levels. It also can play a role in heart, the energy systems of the heart. But where I think a lot of people really are looking at is this effect on skeletal muscle, because again, skeletal muscle are huge energy users. So with the skeletal muscle, it's playing a role in fatty acid uptake, oxidation, glucose uptake, and mitochondrial biogenesis. This is what's interesting is, guys, what's the mitochondria within the cell? It's the engine. It's the engine that's producing the energy. So a lot of people have less mitochondria in their cells. And the reason why is it really has to do with their lack of activity, especially when you're talking about skeletal muscle mass. So if you want to massively increase the amount of mitochondria within your skeletal muscle mass, then start doing high intensity, short duration exercise. So this is why that if you are asking the question, should I go on berberine, but you are not even exercising, that's why I say you are looking for the strategy and you're not looking to change your lifestyle. So it actually will also inhibit fatty acid synthesis, cholesterol synthesis. So yeah, it can lower your cholesterol and also decrease the amount of, glucose and glycogen that is then made within the actual liver. So this is actually how metformin works, but I wouldn't want to take metformin. I would rather do it in a much more natural way. So it's not stimulating insulin secretion. In fact, it's doing the opposite, but it is actually helping with the mitochondria within the cell. It's helping with fatty acid oxidation. It's inhibiting the liver from producing all kinds of glucose. things like that. So when you look at it, that it stimulates this enzyme within the cell, specifically within the mitochondria, then yes, you see how it exerts those effects, then yes, it can do things and start to play a role with your hunger and with how you're utilizing energy and how you're able to burn fat as well. So if you look at this enzyme and you look at it, and this is some pretty new stuff, if you look at this, and as people go into a deficit of this enzyme, then basically one of the things that actually happens is that it leads to, yes, insulin resistance and inflammation. So how many people do you know that are insulin resistant? And in fact, really one of the things that you can see is as a person gets older and they just get fatter, yeah, we can make the assumption that you're not moving as much, you're not exercising as much. Yes, but all things being equal, yes, our cells do get beat up over time. You just give it enough time, and you're going to be doing things that are going to be beating up your cells. So as you start to see metabolic dysregulation and you start seeing a deficit of this enzyme that's leading to a decrease in energy production, then yes, it will lead to insulin resistance and inflammation. Well, one of the things that causes this, two biggest things, is going to be overnutrition and inactivity. Let me say that again, overnutrition and inactivity. So that is why people they're not active at all, guys. And in fact, sometimes I even wonder if I'm even active enough as far as just doing things that aren't even involving exercise, but just involving maybe walking 3 or 4 miles, every single day instead of driving everywhere. But then you also have the idea of over nutrition, which if you look here in the United States, where we take in way too much energy, but very, very little nutrients. And so we're overfed, but very undernourished. And that's why when we say, hey, I want you to avoid processed sugar, and some nutritionists and gurus and weight loss gurus, they lose their mind, say you can do whatever you want just as long as you eat less calories. And I'm going to say, yeah, but if you there's no nutrition in it. There's absolutely no vitamins, no minerals, no fiber that's in it. And so that's why, guys, if you really want to get your potassium, like your RDA, if your potassium, your nutrition has to be spot on. It has to be on point. So we're overfed. And so do genetics play a role? Not as much as I believe that inactivity and overnutrition does. And in fact, if it truly was a genetic issue, because we love to blame our genes, we love it. We can't wait to blame someone other than ourselves. And if you are, dying to just blame your genes, that would have been presented at birth. So if obesity runs in your family, then you really would have been born fat. So, and I tell people, if this was 95% not your fault, then take 100% responsibility for the 5%. But as you start to get this metabolic dysregulation, then this is actually what leads to things like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, even certain type of cancers are largely responsible because of insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is exploding. In fact, the leading cause of fatty liver disease is due to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You wouldn't see it go up that much over the last 30 to 40 years. Even polycystic ovarian syndrome is another huge thing. Why do they recommend first and foremost is like a first line therapy of metformin. In fact, if someone comes in and they have, a confirmed case of polycystic ovarian syndrome, one of the first things that we do is get off of your processed sugars, and we start giving high dose berberines, and as well as some other things depending on what their lab work looks like. Alzheimer's in regards to the inability of sugar utilization within the brain, dyslipidemia, okay, high cholesterol, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. I find it so interesting. The cardiologists, all they talk about is cholesterol, 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 but they're not talking about why that's a problem. In fact, a lot of times it's kind of like saying we came to the scene of an accident and we see tire streaks on the road and we see skid marks. So every time we come to a scene of an accident, we see skid marks. So therefore, skid marks cause accidents. It's the skid marks. Maybe we should put a bunch of Teflon on the roads and then we won't see any more skid marks anymore. So there's always an underlying physiology behind it. But where this, when they talk about anti-aging, this is actually one of the reasons why. So, and in fact, scientists are actually looking for this. Okay, so they're actually looking at this, and this comes back from about 6 years ago. Adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase is a new target for nutraceutical compounds. So now they're trying to figure out how can we, how can we manipulate this, and how can this be the new, blockbuster type of medication. So this is actually how metformin. This is also how berberine works. So let's look into some of the physiology as far as what it does. So adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, can I just call AMPK, AMPK for, for now, is an important energy sensor, okay? It increases different metabolic pathways such as fatty acid oxidation or fat loss, glucose transport into a cell, and mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning the formation of mitochondria within the cell, which are your basically your powerhouse, your engines within the cell for energy formation. So several studies indicate that when you have a reduction of AMPK sensitivity to cellular stress during aging, and I just call it bad behavior, and this could impair the downstream signaling and maintenance of the cellular energy balance and the stress resistance, your resistance to stress. So alterations in AMPK signaling decreases mitochondrial biogenesis, increases cellular stress, and induces inflammation. Well, why does it induce inflammation? Because you have a sick cell after that, which are typical events of the aging process and have been associated to several pathological processes. So when people say, yeah, I'm just getting older, I say, yeah, you're really just getting more beat up, because the same bad behavior that you did at 20 that you thought you were getting away with, that you continue to do in your 30s or 40s, you just keep beating up the cell. The reason why you thought you were getting away with it in your 20s is because you didn't do enough yet in order to change it. And so this is why, when people say you're supposed to age this way, you're supposed to, be miserable in your 40s. I say, I don't agree with that. And in fact, we're proving it every single day, because I'm still trying to figure out when I'm supposed to really start to go downhill, which is what everyone kept telling me. They said, you're supposed to go downhill at 30. You're supposed to go downhill at 35. No, wait till you're 40. No, wait till you're 45. And I had someone recently tell me, wait till you hit 50. And I'm like, I'm not, that's like, enjoy it now. And I'm like, I'm not trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to preserve it as much as possible. And so, but when you talk about the mitochondria are very, very important. But guys, how many of you know that you can preserve or grow your mitochondria by actually demanding more oxygen and sugar into your cells, which is why high intensity, short duration exercise, why it is so important. And how this actually does play a role in cancer, type 2 diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, and cardiovascular diseases like heart attack and stroke. So when this enzyme is activated, a number of signaling pathways are initiated, having effect on your lipids, glucose, and protein homeostasis. These effects are crucial for the regulation of metabolic events in the liver, the heart, the skeletal muscle, the brain, and also in your fat tissue. So AMPK is considered as a fuel sensor for glucose and lipid metabolism, which is why if you start to see that your blood sugars are going up and that you're putting on fat, there is a problem going on in your body. If you start to see that your blood sugars are still normal, but your insulin levels are going up, you are already starting a problem with this system, with this pathway. So what on earth then, what are berberines doing? They're affecting this AMPK, this enzyme. So they're helping with energy homeostasis. So yeah, we talked about metformin, but how does it work? That's how it works. And also so does berberine. Now, Dr. Nate, what do you mean? What do you mean is berberine? It's the constituent within specific herbs. Some have higher amounts in some than in others. So the benefits of berberine, this actually comes from research. It helps with insulin resistance. It reduces plaque, has an anti-clotting effect. It reduces polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms. It improved Alzheimer's symptoms, helps to convert vitamin D into its active form. Guys, you have no idea how many times I see a person that is taking 5 to 10,000 IUs of vitamin D and going out in the sun, and their vitamin D levels are still at 25 or still at 30. And the doctor's is going to say, yeah, you need to be on a 50,000 IU dose for the next 2 weeks, but they don't ever explain to them why, nor do I even think they know why. It helps to protect cardiomuscle fibroids after a heart attack. So, if you get the replacement of scar tissue to dead tissue, it can play a role in that. It's also very antimicrobial, which is why we do give things like golden seal to people when they do have gastrointestinal infection, overgrowth, things like that. And it also can reverse, which I think is the most important thing, is reversing mitochondrial damage. Remember, oxidative damage damages the mitochondria. Absolutely. And in fact, if you even look at what repairs the mitochondria, it's a hormone that you think is a sleep aid or a sleep vitamin, and that is known as melatonin. So why, guys, do you need sleep every single night? For repair. And people are like, I don't know why I need sleep. Can get by with 5 hours of sleep. Well, you can probably exist and sit at your desk and do a halfway decent job, at your job. But are you truly healing and repairing yourself by getting enough sleep? The times that I have absolutely crumbled when it comes to my health, and it's happened before, is the times where I was doing a high amount of stress and a low amount of sleep, and you aren't getting away with it. Eventually, you will pay the price because of your inability to be able to repair oxidative damage, specifically to your mitochondria. Okay, so they have looked at this berberine and its role in chronic disease. So berberine is an ammonium salt from the protoberberine group of isoquinoline alkaloids. It's found in such plants as Oregon grape, uh, golden seal, guys, which we've been using for the last 5 years. And also California poppy. So I bet you didn't know that California poppy, which actually works as a sedative, and we give it to people when stress is a major interference to them getting better. California poppy is basically like having a glass of wine without the damaging effects of alcohol, or impairing your motor ability, or just making you stupid. All right. So the in vitro, so within a petri dish, it exerts significant anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activities. In animal models, berberine has a neuroprotective and cardiovascular protective effects. In humans, its lipid lowering and insulin resistance improving actions have clearly been demonstrated in numerous randomized clinical trials. Moreover, preliminary studies, clinical evidence suggests the ability of berberine to reduce, now listen to this, endothelial inflammation, improving what? Vascular health, even in patients already affected by cardiovascular disease. So isn't that interesting? So look at the effects it has on a person's nerve system, the effects on their cardiovascular system, the effects on their on the immune system with inflammation and things like that. I know you're asking the question, all right, where do I get it? And you guys want to know something? When people try to go to the links that I provide for them, they're like, you're not selling anything. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They're like, well, you could make so much money doing that. And I say, because I don't want to be like these people who are convincing you that you need to take something and only add it to your routine for it not to work, because the thing that you haven't done primarily is change your lifestyle. I don't want you to go out and get it and do what we would call the Dr. Oz effect. You know, the Dr. Oz effect. Dr. Oz would say, yeah, go ahead and you can take some red rice yeast. We see a reduction in cholesterol, and then people run out to the health food store and they start taking red rice yeast. And, but then they still stay sick. And then they come in and they're like, I am on 40 different things and it doesn't work. And then the doctor, your doctor laughs at you for doing that, because he says, you're doing all of these silly little things when we could just give you a medication. And so they don't change your lifestyle. They put you on a medication. If you do that, if you are doing what we would call the Dr. Oz effect, you are setting yourself up for failure. And you're also setting yourself up for wasting a lot of money and also wasting a lot of time. And so that's why you need to know how to change your lifestyle. And then other things can then help to bump these things up a little bit more. So Oregon grape, there's other things too that might be even a little bit more powerful as far as its effect is berberine constituent in it. But things like golden seal, for example, you do that over the course of a few months, and it can really change the microbiome quite a bit, not necessarily for the better. And Oregon grape has a little bit a lot better effect on the gastrointestinal microbiome than golden seal actually does. So Oregon grape, so it actually, you're going to notice just one of the things in there is berberine. So that's why a lot of the things that we'll recommend have actually a crossover effect, not just doing one thing, but having a crossover effect for a lot of other things. Like, for example, dandelion root is actually can work as a diuretic, but it also can work to help soften gallstones. And also it's a great source of magnesium. It's a great source of potassium, which is why when people are like, don't I need to be on potassium? I'm like, no, you're on some dandelion roots. You're going to get high doses of potassium. So Oregon grape can help stimulate gallbladder secretions. When we're doing stools testing and we're seeing some problems within the microbiome, it helps to promote healthy intestinal balance. It can actually help fight infection within the gastrointestinal system. And yes, because the berberine can help promote healthy blood sugar and insulin levels, can actually support cardiovascular function. And notice when we say this, we have to give the disclaimer this has not been evaluated by the FDA, but I don't trust the FDA one bit. But we have to have that disclaimer with everything that we do, because if we made that, then the only thing that it would be is they would have to become a drug. So Oregon grape, probably the one that I would recommend using the most. Now, if you're saying, Dr. Nate, I've done that and it doesn't work, here's probably why. Number one, you're not taking enough. So when we're recommending it, we're recommending 1,500 to 3,000 milligrams. You probably are taking a 500 milligram capsule and thinking that's going to change your life. You may not be taking good quality as well. So yeah, in the supplement industry is the wild, wild west. There are just crazy things that are in certain things, which is a gripe at the same time. That's why Canada, I think, is just getting rid of like supplements altogether. In fact, that's what a couple of people told me. I've read about that because it is not, in fact, regulated. So we do regulate ours. And in fact, I remember hearing Dr. Patrick say, I hope someone comes in, like coming in as some kind of expose, and they third party test everything, and everything comes out as exactly what is on the label. Here's the third thing too, is you're just not changing your lifestyle. So like I always say, the most powerful thing is going to be your lifestyle. The most powerful thing that you could do is change your lifestyle. Quit beating yourself up. It's like literally every day you fall down and you skin your knee, and then you try to look and say, what is the best, what's the best thing that I can put on my skin knee? Is there like a special Band-Aid? Is there just some kind of special cream that I can put on this? And meanwhile, I'm saying, why are you falling on your knee every single day? Maybe you should like avoid the buckle in the sidewalk. That's why changing your lifestyle will always have the most important effect. And then the fourth thing is you're not doing the number one thing. You know what that is? You're not working with a wellness way doctor who actually knows what they're doing. So I always tell people, and it's like, quit trying to do it yourself. Please work with a wellness way doctor. We know exactly what and when and how, because there are no other doctors that are more versed in physiology than a wellness way doctor. But some people don't want to do that, and I probably will offend people by doing this, but it's okay, because not a lot of people change unless they're first offended. I'm like, well, why do some people have such a desire to do it on their own? And it really comes down to their ego. The people who are the hardest to get better are the people who are so desperate to do it on their own, and who refuse coaching, and who want to try to figure everything out on their own. And I used to be that way. And it didn't work for me at all. It's almost like if I said, hey, I'm going to give you this puzzle. and I'm going to just spread out this 1,000-piece puzzle, put it together. And then I said, but I'm going to show you what this puzzle looks like. Here's the picture of the box. And that person saying, no, 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 I want to make it as hard as possible. I want to say that I did it on my own. And then because I did it on my own, that I can go, coach other people and feel very important about it. The people who are the hardest to get better are in fact those people. And so that's why, sometimes I've asked people, do you want to be better, or do you want to say you did it on your own? Because you may finally be able to figure it out, but it will cost you a lot more money and it'll cost you a lot more time. You have one life to live. Why not get better and enjoy the fruits of getting better rather than trying to figure it out? So guys, this is why I can't emphasize more is get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And how is that going to happen is please work with a Wellness Way doctor. Guys, you can go to wellnessway.com. You can find a Wellness Way doctor that's close to you. There may be one close to your area. But also too, if you want to work with me remotely, then get registered for the inflammation webinar. And we'll give you a website that you can go to specifically apply to work with me and schedule your first consultation with me as well. Okay. So here's a perfect example. Okay. This is some blood testing that I did. And this was, I think, about 2 weeks ago or so. Here's a woman that you can see after approximately, this is about 4 months. And you can see that her hemoglobin A1C went from 7.4 down to 6.8. Okay. Now you may say, oh, that's a decent drop in about 4 months. And it's a pretty considerable drop. But what's also interesting is if you look at her insulin levels, they went from 64 down to 21. So 3 times less insulin needed in order to still be lowering her blood sugar. So what does that mean? That's called insulin sensitivity. And yes, we did a couple other things helping with blood sugar, no doubt about it. But was she on berberines? Absolutely. She was on some other things too. But she also changed her lifestyle. But here's the kicker. She went from 100 units of insulin per day down to 20 units in about 6 weeks. So think of that. 100 units of insulin down to 20 units in 6 weeks. But this right here, if you look over to the right, this was 15 years of medicine. How is it working out? This is 4 months of the Wellness Way approach. And you see how much better she's getting. And this is not even before the fact that she started to introduce exercise at all. Some people just aren't ready for it, mentally or physically. But this right here, 15 years of medicine, and this right here, 4 months of the Wellness Way approach. And you can see a big dramatic difference. And she said, this is the first time that anyone's ever sat down and talked to me about what it took in order to be healthy. My doctor would just throw a pill and throw metformin, throw my cholesterol medications, my blood pressure medications. And then finally it was just kept failing and failing. And so she would have to inject insulin every single day. That's called traditional medical approach. That's the right medical approach that leads them down a path of continuing to get worse and worse and worse. Why don't doctors teach anything about lifestyle? They either don't know or they just don't get paid for it and they don't have time. And that's the worst in healthcare, because how do we change the world? We change it one person at a time. We change one person at a time, which means there's not going to be enough doctors for the number of people who are sick. And it reminds me of the old man and the starfish, where the old man was walking down the beach and was throwing, and there was thousands of starfish that were washed up in the beach. All of them were going to meet their demise. And the old man just casually just picked up a starfish and threw it back into the ocean. And the young boy came back and said, old man, there isn't any possibility that you can save all of these starfish. You will not make a difference. And as he bent over and he picked up one starfish and threw it back into the ocean, he said, yeah, but I made a difference in that one, in that starfish's life. So let me ask you guys a question. What's your doctor's plan moving forward? So if you are suffering with weight loss resistance, You're suffering with hormone issues. You're suffering with just not having energy, not feeling good. You know that something is wrong, but you're not getting any kind of answers, or the doctor's just putting you on a medication telling you, all right, let's just try this. Let's try this next. Let me ask you a question. What is their plan, their game plan over 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 6 years? What on earth is their plan moving forward? And you know what most people say? There is no plan. And that's why we are always here to be able to help you. That's why that we're doing the inflammation talk coming up in person Thursday, July 20th. If you're from the Chicagoland area, please follow links and get registered for that in-person event coming up Thursday, July 26th, 20th at 6 o'clock. You can also go if you are from not from the Chicagoland area. That's the reason why we have the webinar. You can go register for the webinar, watch it on demand, or get set up for the next time that we'll be doing that, which is going to be on a Tuesday evening, I believe, at 7 o'clock. And then as well, if you are a man, and again, men, you're suffering from this too, have your man get registered for the kickoff to our Man Up Challenge. This, for a man, is going to be probably one of the most impactful and also difficult things that they would do. But the reason why men today are so soft is because they sit on the couch, they don't stress their bodies, and they are so interested in professional sports, but they're doing nothing in order to change their body and to harden their mind. And this is why we do that over the last 4 weeks. And then, guys, you can go to our link tree. So if you're on Instagram, go to the top link tree. You will see this. You'll be able to download this. And if you're following on Facebook at Dr. Nathan Thompson, you'll see this on Linktree. You can download this. I'll leave it up for a couple of days. It's free to use, or for you to use. I'm not interested in charging you anything for it. I'm not interested in making a couple $100. I'm not, not at that point as well. I don't need it. So make sure you download this, and you'll follow links. If you download it onto your computer, you'll see the links in which you can go and order some of that cheap equipment on Amazon and start to. It's the only thing that I ask, guys. If you download this, people said, I promise I'll use it. I promise I'll use it. And I know from doing this for a lot of years, I know that out of 100 people who say they'll do it, 10 people will. And I'm okay with that, actually. So Berberine, is it a weight loss miracle? It works. It's not considered a miracle. The miracle is how you change your life. And then berberines can help to support that and can help speed the path to get you out of the hole that you dug in a smaller amount of time. So guys, I hope this helped. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Drop me a comment below as far as other topics that you'd like to learn about, that you would like to hear about as well. We'll resume normal Monday evening next week. Don't have a topic yet. Maybe we'll do another question and answer at 7 o'clock next Monday, July 10th, at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. So guys, be well, be blessed. I hope you guys enjoy your 4th of July. Let me know what you're doing for 4th of July, and make sure you stay safe as well. So guys, be well, be blessed. And as always, thank you so much for watching.